everybody. This is Lucia Mendieta, Mrs. Ecuador. And today we are just having one of the most amazing women joining us for an interview, a one-on-one here, where you're going to get to know her journey. And this is the series Queens of the World Class of 2023. So I'm very pleased to introduce Julia Caroline, our newest Mrs. World 2023.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you. It's really, really special to see you again. I'm so excited for that. I missed you, girl. I really miss our whole class.
I miss you too. It's just crazy. This happened like 2 weeks ago almost.
Right now, I'm home. The jet lag's almost gone, so that's all great. And I'm in full grind. I'm working on this day and night. I'm having interviews and all this beautiful stuff besides being a mom and doing all the other chores you have to do. But it's so weird because the people who helped me, who were with me the whole time, who shared this experience with me, you're not here. And I miss you guys, especially today. You picked this day. And this morning, I was like, I have to do some kind of reel or like post some pictures because I really just miss my class. I do.
I think this goes for everybody. I also miss you. We were Roland's friends, or, however we call it, mates. But it's an amazing experience. And like you said, it's very interesting because we all get to know what we were feeling because we had the same path through this whole week that we were doing activities. So yeah, it's incredible.
It's so special because you get to share the hard moments, the moments that are kind of tough and challenging, and when you're tired and you don't really know how to go on and how to push through this week when it gets tough, but you also get to share like the most beautiful and precious moments. And I think, that's how core memories are created, just with emotion attached to them. So I think we made some really big memories, and I'm definitely going to tell my grandchildren about this if I get the chance. Definitely.
It's for sure something that you want to share in the future. But so now I want the people to know, of course, where you are right now. How did you get into pageants? And how did you get to know about Mrs. World?
That's actually all connected. I'm in Germany right now. I live in a town called Kassel, which is quite in the middle of Germany, somewhere between Hanover and Frankfurt, quite in the middle. And Germany is not very big in pageantry. We've had some queens over the years. We had Miss International in 22, but we're not that strong of a pageant country. So it's kind of difficult to even get an idea that you can do a pageant here. And for me, the journey was completely different anyway. I've never done this before. This is the first time ever that I went out and did a pageant. And I followed Shaylin Ford, who won Mrs. World in 2021. And I just followed her because she has a lot of wonderful resources about autism and, how to help kids get through that and work with it, and for the parents, how to do that. And that's why I was actually following her. And then I saw, she was Mrs. World. What does that mean? What is that? And I just looked at the pictures and the reels she had posted, and finally I asked her about it. And I said, Shaylin, please tell me about this. What is it? And how did you enter? And why did you do it? And she said, well, it's this pageant for married women, and you get a huge platform, and you get to, showcase your social work. And if you have a platform, it's really wonderful there. So I said, okay, what's a platform? How do I do that? What does that mean? And she looked at my Instagram and she said, well, you have a platform. You advocate for animal-assisted therapy, so it's all there. You've been doing this for years, so all you need to do is structure everything and think about it. Do your research and think about if you really want to enter this pageant, because it's a whole journey. It's not just saying, I want to enter a beauty pageant. Mrs. World is different because it has a whole different meaning with, the platforms and what the ladies stand for who go there. So I did my research. And I made my decision, and I said, I think I'm going to do this, but I'm going to need a team. I'm going to need a coach. I'm going to need, that village behind me who supports me, and the people who know what they're doing, because I don't have the experience and I need someone who does have the experience. So there I was in Germany, a country where there's not a lot about pageantry, but I found the Queen's Camp and I found my coach, and he actually coached the Miss International 22. So I kind of had an idea he knows what he's doing, and they just took me under their wing. It's a whole society. You get a whole new family, wonderful women and men who support you, who are with you every step of the way. And I learned everything from the ground up, from the passerella to what is an interview like, what does that mean? Because it's not like any normal job interview. It's a lot more, actually. And for me, that was a journey that took me 9 months. So I prepared for 9 months straight, and yeah, it was beautiful, but it was also challenging at times, of course. And that's how I came, to Mrs. World.
No, I mean, and you did an amazing job. And of course, here are the results. I mean, everything paid off. We are very proud of you. You are amazing. I mean, you definitely were out there and either backstage or waiting, and I couldn't really hear what you were saying, but then I got to listen to it, and you respond right away, and there you see the preparation you had.
The funny thing is, when they came to top 6 question and to top 3 question, there's not a lot of time. You don't have any preparation left. So what my coach said at home, and what I tried to embrace the whole week, was just be me. Just, own up to who you really are and show authentically who you are, because that's what's always going to be there. You can always rely on that. You can always trust your own gut. You can always trust, this is what I want to say. This is what comes from the heart. And that's what I did, honestly. There was nothing rehearsed. There was nothing like, oh, I need to put this in and I need to, have these 3 topics covered when I give an answer. It was just, they asked a question and I answered a question. That's all it was on stage. Interview is a little different. I mean, it definitely was for you too, I'm sure, because you know what you want to talk about, and you kind of try to steer the conversation there. But on stage, I think it's all about really showing who you are and showing the people a piece of you, so they ideally fall in love with that piece, and they say, well, you know what, I can imagine her representing this whole class. And that's what it is for me. That's what it's all about. And that is what's the greatest honor of all, that I get to represent each and every one of us. And they just, it was one day and they said, okay, we think she can do it. And that's just, I'm so grateful, and I'm so, so thankful for this.
And thank you for that, because I think what you just said, about being yourself and giving that as your answer. I mean, authenticity is what you were talking about. And that's what good part. You are authentic. So I want you now to take me back to that week. How were you, dealing with the different things every day? Or what is your highlight from that week during the pageant? Like maybe it's the rehearsal part. Maybe it's like you were saying, the interview side, or something very special that happened during that week, or if you can highlight some other things.
So when I got there, like, I'm a newbie, I've never done this before, so everything was new. From arriving there with a sash, I had, a nice man coming up to me saying, you know what, I'm gonna take care of your luggage, I'm gonna help you with it to get it to your Uber. I've never had that happen before, ever. So this sash really helped. People at the hotel, they were so excited. They were like, can we take a picture with you? And I'm not used to that because I've never had it before. So those were the first impressions. I was like, wow, this is really special. And everyone at Westgate knows about Mrs. World, so they all know what you're in for the week. But I didn't. For me, everything was new. Then you get your roommate, and I was with Mrs. UK, and she was so nice. And you never know before. You never know, are you going to get along or not? So this was all very exciting. And then we had orientation. And it's the first time you really get to see all the ladies dressed up and styled and in makeup. And you're like, oh my God, there's so much beauty. And that's not just the outside, but you start conversations and you hear these ladies' stories and how they got there, what they've been through, what they stand for. And it's just, it really hit me at dignitary dinner. I'm sure you can remember that, when each and every one of us stepped on stage and, talked about the dignitary gift they brought and the background story to it, and a little piece of us, how we thought this would work as a dignitary gift and why we brought it. And that was the moment. I think Tana talked about Victoria's Voice Foundation, and Sargan said a couple of words, and the judges were there, which also made it kind of special because you knew they're there, they're watching us. And it just hit me in that moment that it's not only, about who wins in the end or who gets the crown, but the greatest honor and the greatest gift was being there and hearing these stories, connecting with these women. And it's crazy. I mean, I know someone, everywhere in the world now, and I've had kind of a similar experience with my sport before. So I do Western riding, and I was on a national team, and I got to go to Australia for a World Cup, and I got to go to the US for a World Cup. So I kind of knew about this, but never only women, grown-up, married women who all have a beautiful story to tell, and they have a career, and some have children, and some have traveled so far. And it's just, that was the moment that I really got overwhelmed with not just the beauty, but the power that is within these women in this group. And I was really emotional, and my answer. I said that when they asked me about it in the top 6, and it was really the only thing that was filling my head was dignitary dinner, and was this moment, because for me, I felt so calm after this, knowing I had this experience and this feeling hit me, and I understood it, and I'm going to take that home with me. No one can ever take that away from me, and that was very, very special for me. And competition-wise, interview was tough for me. I don't know about you, but for me, it was tough. And I told my family before, if I have, one thing that I really care about, that I want to do well in, it's interview, because everything else you don't know. You don't know how stage is going to be, how the audience is going to be on that day, how you perform yourself. But for interview, you can prepare. And I really wanted to bring across what I stand for and why I'm doing this. And when I walked out of interview, I called my husband later on, and I said, you know what, I'm happy now, because it worked. It was super tough for me. They had a lot of questions, and they kept them coming, one after the other. And each and every one of them was challenging somehow, and they were all so nice, but it was still a challenge for me. And I was very happy after that. And honestly, from then on, it was just about keeping calm. Staying in your zone, staying focused, not getting too sidetracked with other things, and preserving your energy is something that Mrs. Navajo Nation always said to us, Maureen. And she's so right, because you need to kind of preserve your energy for those moments. And at the same time, you want to have some fun, I mean, your energy is nonstop. So, be near Mrs. Ecuador, and you always have the energy there. I love that. You will always be for me, right? You were on that side. Yeah. So yeah. And it's so beautiful if you have someone like you who just had this energy and who goes out there with that energy. And it's very exciting to have someone like you. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I remember. So to me, this moment will always remain in my memory. It's you. We are backstage. We are waiting for our crew to go out in our costumes. And when I saw you with the Cinderella dress, I was like, mental picture, click. Because she just looked like the actual Cinderella real life version. I mean, gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Tell me about that dress. I mean, how do you get it? Where do you find it? What did your daughter think about?
Oh my God. Well, she was so excited with it. For her, that was the best part. Like, the playing Cinderella was the best. And she got to try on the humongous, huge, big skirt. I mean, you saw it, right? So I took up 1/4 of my luggage. I had 2 bags, and one side was just the skirt. I was actually, debating with myself, am I going to bring it or am I going to do something else? But for me, I didn't want to do a dirndl, which is associated with Oktoberfest and with Germany. And I understand that, but I'm not from Bavaria. So for me, that would have been, it's okay to do that because it's German and it's fine. But I wanted to do something that really had to do with my hometown and where I come from. And I share my hometown with the Brothers Grimm, who collected all these fairy tales. And I said to my coach, you know what, I want to do that. And I already know the fairy tale I'm going to pick, and it's Cinderella, because that's the only thing that I can think of when I think of a costume for myself. So I found myself a designer, Samara's Bridal Couture, and she's such a gem. She also gave me my prelims gown, the Barbie gown, the pink one. And she just said, okay, what's on your mind? What do you want to do? What can we create? I said, just think Cinderella as authentically as possible. We even got the collar and all the things, And she said, okay, I'm going to do that for you. And she did. She really recreated that. And it's so funny because what you just described, this moment, I remember sitting there trying not to stand too long on the high heels. So I sat down and I had this huge skirt around me. And I was like, this really is a Cinderella moment. This feels just like the movies when they're sitting there. And it was really when I was stepped on stage and I said my blurb and I said, I want to write my own story and I'm so proud to be a part of this. It's true. It was really true. And my fairy tale became a reality the moment they placed the crown on my head. And I'm beyond, excited and grateful for that. And I could have never known that before, but somehow it snuck its way in, and there it is.
That's, to me, a beautiful resemblance of what you just said. It's your story that you're getting to write. It's your Cinderella story. You were my Cinderella in that moment. I mean, it was just perfect. And again, I have the mental picture, but I wish we had cameras on backstage. Yeah, it's so beautiful to remember. Now, after the crown is placed in your head, what was going through your mind? Who was the first person that you thought about, to thank or something?
Actually, when they announced Mrs. Canada as first runner-up, it took me a second. Really, it took my brain a second to understand, okay, that means they're going to call you and you were actually going to get the crown. So the first thing I thought about was I have to hug Mrs. Canada, but she was already walking off stage because, they kind of lead the first runner-up away. And I was like, oh my God, she already left. And then the next thought was, okay, what's expected of me now? What am I going to do? Because I don't know if you saw my facial expression when they announced me as the winner. I was just screaming. There was nothing controlled about that moment at all. I was just, oh my God. And then there was just happiness. It was a deep gratitude and happiness. And I looked at the audience and I had no one there. My family couldn't join. They were on the live stream, but they couldn't be there because the kids are really small and they just had to stay home. So each and every one person out there who started to applaud and they were screaming Germany, I thought, oh my God, I'm so thankful because I don't know you people. You just saw me on stage and I'm so happy and thankful that they were out there and really actually celebrating me as the new Mrs. World. And then all I wanted to do was hug my class. Like that happened a little bit later because first you get the crown and the sash and you walk your first round, which was actually kind of difficult because the crown was all shaky on my head. Yeah, because we couldn't really attach it. It would have taken, too much time. So we were like, just walk. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk. It's gonna work. It worked, but it's kind of, it was difficult to do. And then finally I got to hug all of you. And that was, I think you can see that. I don't know if there's footage of that, but that was the moment that I couldn't really, hold the tears in anymore. And that was the best moment. And I had my emotional moment before, and there's actually video footage of that. Yeah, I didn't post it anywhere yet, but we have to make something of that. It was when I think the first one of us to answer top 3 was Canada. So she was on stage answering her question, and we had the headphones because we were not supposed to hear that. And we're dancing around and, or I was at least, and I was waiting. And then you see, I think it was Fred who came up and he was like pointing at me for Patricia, to take off the headphones and send me on stage. And then I did my question and I was walking off stage and I was like, I liked my answer. I don't know if it was, good or anything, but I liked it because it was me. And then Mrs. Columbia walked on and did hers. And when she was walking on and doing her answer, I realized it's only us 3. And for me, it's done. There's nothing to be done anymore. They're going to decide, and one of us is actually going to get the crown. And that was a moment I was actually on the floor. I was sitting on the floor because I couldn't stand anymore. And I really had to take a deep breath and, wipe away the tears. And I collected myself. We did some breathing exercises. There was someone back there doing breathing exercises with us, and then it was fine and I could walk out again. But I had that moment, and there's footage of that.
That's incredible. We want to see it for sure. You kind of like have to manage all that with strength in that moment, even though you are probably nervous, a little bit anxious, what's gonna happen and everything else. But I think nobody could notice that anything of that happened. You all look gorgeous, and it was just like you said, a matter of, okay, now they're gonna say it, they're gonna make the decision.
Yeah. And it's so funny because on the inside, you know, there's a storm going on, and on the outside, you just look. I think I saw my crowning moment twice until now. I haven't seen it more times than that, and I was like, yeah, it looks pretty calm, and it's so funny because it wasn't. It was actually like this and holding Mrs. Canada's hands, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. What if I'm, you know, gonna be the last one standing? And yeah. So yeah, there was a lot going on, and you're right, all those feelings are mixed in that moment. I mean, the biggest feeling is joy, because you're just so happy to be there. And of course, you're thankful to the judges, but my feeling was more like, I'm actually one of the 3 people standing here representing all of these gorgeous women. And that is, it's huge and it's nice, but it's a lot. You know, because you know you're kind of responsible now to represent all of them. If you were a winner or first or second runner-up, it doesn't matter, but you kind of represent all of them. It's a huge responsibility, and I take it very seriously.
No, and I'm sure you're gonna do great. We all are looking at your journey, what's gonna happen, and I want you to tell me a little bit about that. I want you to tell me, what do you want the people to remember you for?
What I really want them to remember me for is that as married women, it's not only possible to step out there and to represent something that is very close to your heart, whether it's your platform or the marriage itself, being a mother, being a woman in a profession, but also that as women, when we come together and we unite, that we have so much power. And it's unbelievable what you can achieve when you trust yourself, when you truly embrace who you are, when you're grateful to the people who support you, of course, but also you have to know yourself and to be authentic. If you show the world a piece of you, it doesn't have to be everything, but if you show them a piece of you, a piece of your soul and who you really are, there's a huge chance that they're gonna love you. And that's something, it takes a lot of courage. It took me a lot of courage and a long journey of 9 months of preparing for Mrs. World. But it's so worth it in the end when you see yourself and you're like, that's really me, and I can actually do something with it. So I want to be remembered as someone who did something with the title, who represented all of these women graciously, and who was able to really change things in the world. Maybe not change the whole world, but small steps might also lead to beautiful things. And that's something that I would love to be remembered for. Yes.
I love it. And I think you're going to do great. So you're starting this journey, and yeah, I can only wish you all the best for that. I want you to tell me about your family. How did they take it? When you got home, what was the first thing that you guys did?
When I called them at night, I think it was past midnight. Yeah, it was past midnight when I got my phone from backstage. So before that, I hadn't spoken to anyone. And it didn't work with my phone, so I had to use Mrs. Francis' phone. And my mother didn't know the number, of course, but she picked up. Thankfully, she picked up. And I just said, Mom, I did it. And she just screamed. She was like, oh my God, I know. I'm inside. And my husband was in the background and he was yelling something. And the kids were asleep. It was 4 a.m. in the morning when the show started, so they weren't up yet. And then later, when I was in my hotel room, I still had my crown on and the sash and everything. And I was sitting on my bed and I called them, and then the kids were up. And, the first thing my daughter said, kids are very humbling. She said, Mom, your eyes are so dark. Are you very tired? Yes, honey, Mom's very tired. Look, I brought home a crown. I'm going to bring that home. She said, oh, that's so nice. She liked that part, of course, but for them, it was only important that I come home soon, that we do a lot of playtime, stuff like that. So that was before I actually went home, and then I had to stay another day for a photo shoot, and then I got home, and it was kind of a journey because my flight needed to be rebooked and then rebooked again because it had rained a lot. I don't know if you remember, that was this day, our last day basically, where it rained a lot in Las Vegas, so a lot of flights were canceled or late. So I had to fly into Hanover instead of Frankfurt, and that changed everything, but my husband still picked me up at the airport. And then we had a little family gathering, and it was so beautiful. We were just, around 25 people, maybe 27, I don't know, something like that. Our mayor came, who lives 2 streets down from here, so it's like, it sounds so, I don't know, like someone who's so far away, but he isn't. And my parents were there, my whole family was there, the sponsors who live around here, we invited them, of course, and a lot of friends who supported me, and the neighbors who supported me, and everyone brought flowers. I still have these beautiful, like everywhere in my house, of flowers right now, and it was so much beautiful emotion that came towards me, and they are so proud, and I'm just overwhelmed by that because I never thought this would happen. Honestly, I never thought this would happen, and that people are so supportive of something they've never heard of before. I don't think any one of them had ever heard of Mrs. World, but they just loved the journey. They just loved, what I said was my reason to do this. And they still are so supportive, and I get texts every day like, what is your next step? What are you going to do? When are you going to start traveling and all of that? And that's the most special thing. And I don't think it has anything to do with the crown, actually. I think you tell me, about your experience, but I think that has nothing to do with winning. It has to do with the journey you're on and the way you kind of radiate the happiness that you feel. And then people they like that. And, they come towards you and they tell you about it. And that's so beautiful.
It's incredible. And I am so happy that everybody got to see it, that everybody is now getting to know you, knowing your journey, how you prepare, and we're going to continue on that. I want you to tell me any of the challenges that probably went through either before, during, after the pageant. And you are a mom, you have 2 beautiful children. So tell me also a little bit about that.
Well, I think that's very special about the Mrs. Pageantry, because of course you have married women, but you also have women who have a lot of family, who have kids, who have maybe some pets at home, and just other responsibilities. So it's basically all about multitasking, and we're supposed to be good at that as women anyway. But really, it is about that. So when you have a balance in your normal life with, taking care of your kids, taking care of your husband, having a job, working that, and then friends, and maybe you have a hobby or a sport or something, you are already used to that. You already know how to do that. And pageantry, you're taking part in Mrs. World, is just an add-on. It's just something else. And also it's very rewarding because you do something for yourself as a woman. It's also about taking care of yourself, whether that's working out, nutrition, getting to know how to walk, how to move your hips, or, get some moves on. It's also rewarding. It's not just work, but the challenge for me really was to find the balance. How much time do the kids need so they are happy, and how much time is okay to take for preparation for my dream? And especially, I think, with small kids, we as moms, we tend to kind of give up on that part of us that wants to take care of yourself. Not forever, hopefully, but for a while you really forget about that, and that's okay. I mean, the whole first year of a child is supposed to be about them and them only, and that's fine for me. But after that year, I thought, maybe it's okay to have something for myself too, something that makes me really happy, and something that, lets me embrace who I am even a little more. The feminine part, the part that really loves to be a woman. I love dresses, and I love all this, but when you're a mom, it's not really important if you wear makeup. It's not really important if you, do know how to do a catwalk or something. That's not important to your kids. So you kind of forget about those things, but they're a lot of fun. It's a challenge, like you said it's a challenge to really make everybody happy, but it's also important to kind of make yourself happy every now and then. And that's really what this was about for me. The dancing part, our little dance. It wasn't my favorite. It really wasn't, because I'm not a dancer at all. And then at some point, our choreographers decided that Mrs. Germany could very well be in that dancer group. And I said, are you sure? Are you really sure? So that was not something that, I played with. It was really shock. And I really was like, I no, I can't do that. And they pushed me out of my comfort zone again, because going to Mrs. World was way out of my comfort zone anyways, but I loved it. I loved the week and how everything developed. And then they took me, when the moment I got kind of comfortable there with you and with Mrs. France and Mrs. Guatemala beside me, they said, we're going to take this a step further and we're going to push her out of her comfort zone again. So yeah, that wasn't really my favorite part. And in the end, I think we had a lot of fun on stage. It was Elvis Presley's stage. It was really, that's so crazy for me to even think about that. And it was a lot of fun, but it's a challenge, like you said. And the rehearsals are a challenge, because at some point, I think each and every one of us messed up at some point, and you're just doubting yourself in that moment. And that's natural, and I think it's necessary, because that's the way you grow, or that's at least the way I grow, when I kind of, make mistakes and I have to learn from them. And this is not something, it's not a matter of life or death if you mess up a choreography, but you want to do good. You want to do good for the other ladies who are standing behind you or in front of you, and for the whole picture that you're creating there. And also, I think you're kind of someone that the little girls might look up to and might think, well, I don't know how to do this, and I don't want to take my first dance lesson because I don't know how this works. Just do it, just do it. And if someone tells you you're going to dance front row, you do it. you don't think twice about it. You just do it, and trust yourself and trust the people who really genuinely want the best for you. And that's something that really helped throughout the week. And for preparation, I had my coach who really, he's just such a sweetheart, because he's from the Philippines. So he knows a lot about pageantry, actually. He knows everything. And whenever he's very subtle with hints. He doesn't, scream it in your face when he thinks you should change something or do something. So you really have to listen. And I was like, just tell me if I'm messing up, or tell me if I need to change something. He's like, I think we should maybe do this for that. It's very sweet. And he was so supportive, and he was so kind to me, and he kept checking on me. He kept sending me texts like, you don't need to, but do you want to send me your routine? Do you already know what the setup is going to be on stage? Do you know the pattern that you're going to walk? Because it changed from prelims to finals, and the direction changed and everything changed. So he was like, do you want to show me, or are you good? If you don't have the time, don't worry. So I think having that kind of person behind you who knows what they're doing, the first thing, but most importantly, who really care about you, have such a kindness in their heart. They just want you to do your best. That's really important to have. And that can be a family member. It doesn't have to be your coach. It can be a friend. It can be another pageant bestie who supports you that way. But I think that's super important. And without that support, which was just such a blessing, I don't think I could have done it. Like, without this class, it sounds funny, I know that, but without this specific class of women that you were a part of, I don't think I could have done what I did.
I think, everybody was exceptional. Like, I think I said it in another thing or video, but I think everybody left like a nice imprint inside of each other. We share so much, and we all are so different and unique. So we all brought something different to the table. We all share our experience. So yeah, I think that's what it makes us really high up. And that's the reason why of interviews, because I also think these ladies that put all this effort and came together, we shared a space on stage. I want the people to see them and to know them. So
yes, I love that. You are the perfect journalist out there. You're the perfect person. You did it the whole week. And lots of respect for that, because you had such great ideas and it was so much fun. I still love to watch those videos, and I think what you are doing is like you're paying respect to everyone's efforts that they put in to go there. And I don't know, we should probably do like a TV series or something about this, because everyone deserves their space. They should all tell their stories, and I think I don't know every detail of everybody's story, and I would love to know every detail. So I'm really looking forward to you doing this. I cannot wait for the other ladies because, you know, they have so much value to give. You just need to put it out there, and that's what you're doing, and that's very beautiful.
Thank you so much. It gives me more motivation to continue to do this, because it was like I always have these ideas, and I thought, I want to do this. There it was on the chat. We have our chat. So everybody, we have a chat for Mrs. World. In the class, we have a chat. So some of the ladies are coming together also to bring their stories. And I cannot wait to share this with all of you. I want to go back to you, and I want you to tell me, you're a doctor. You're a doctor. How was it to go back into your practice and tell them? I don't know if you told people beforehand or you just told them afterwards, hey, by the way, I'm the new queen here.
It's so funny. I'm on maternal leave right now because my youngest is still really young. But it's exactly like you said before. I'm a person who doesn't like to tell things before they're done. It doesn't really matter how they turn out, but I don't like to tell before. So I didn't really tell anyone except my closest family and friends. Of course, they knew. And they read it in the paper and they didn't hear it from me. It was all over the newspapers in Germany the next morning. And my director of my hospital actually sent me a text, and he said, and I quote, "I never thought that I would ever write this, but congratulations, Mrs. World." And I just love that. And they've been so supportive. They put it on their Instagram of, you know, the hospital and stuff. And you never know how people are going to, you know, receive that kind of information. And they are so proud and they are so positive about it. And I think what they understand is that it's really a chance to put the topic that we work with every single day, which is mental health for children and for adolescents, but also for families and for anyone basically out there, to put it on a stage and in a beautiful light, in an, you know, kind of an easier way than normally. Because when you think, I don't know about you, but when you think about psychotherapy and a diagnosis in that field, it's not the easiest thing to approach. So putting it on a stage like Mrs. World and having that entertainment factor of a pageant, I think it's genius to, you know, kind of combine those two. And it's a chance for that topic to, you know, just be more approachable and easier to talk about. And that's what we want to do. And I think that's really important because it's still stigmatized and it's still difficult, especially for the parents who have kids that have a problem at some point. And it should be something that we just talk about. It should be easier to say, I need help, because that's the first step. And that's very difficult to do.
I'm sure about something, and I'm kind of like, I'm 100% sure and positive. You started this conversation saying some other Mrs. World inspire you, Shailene, right?
Yes.
I am 100% sure you're gonna get to inspire many more women and the future Mrs. World next year. Because, I mean, again, once you get to know Julia, everybody, she is amazing, and you get to know her drive, what she's passionate about, and what she's bringing. She's bringing all this pride to her country. Oh, well deserved. You know, we're proud of you. Yes.
Thank you so much. And that really means the world to me.
We are. And talking about this kind of feelings, emotions, everything else, we all get along with our group. But there was a special connection for you, wasn't it? Like, there's a special classmate. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How did you guys get to be closer and everything else?
My pageant bestie was Mrs. France, and she's just, oh my God, she is such a beautiful soul. And you've met her, you know who I'm talking about. So she's this tall, naturally beautiful French model, like runway model. She's gorgeous on the outside, but she's even more beautiful on the inside. And her and her husband, they actually were kind of my family, my French family, because after you were crowned, there was like a little reception at a suite there. It wasn't like a big, loud party, but it was a beautiful reception. And they said, you know, you could bring your family. And I said, well, they are like 8,000 kilometers away, so I need to think about something. And I said, I'm going to bring my French family, and I brought them with me, and they stayed with me the whole night. They took care of my phone from backstage. They took care of me getting to call my mother and my husband. They took care that I got something to eat. They actually walked me back to my hotel room that night to make sure that I got there, safely, and that I, hopefully get some sleep at that night. And I cannot thank them enough, and it kind of makes me emotional even talking about that. And we're in contact, that we're talking in the chat all the time, but I'm talking to her, of course, like individually as well. And I would love to meet basically all of you again, but I'd really love for her to visit Germany. So if you ever want to come, please let me know, because I'd love to host. And she's just one of those people who, I heard her scream Germany when there was, I think there was top 3 or top 6 announcement, I don't know, and she was on the side of the stage. She stepped out there with some other ladies, I think, and she was screaming on the top of her lungs. I was like, that's her. I know, that is her. That's the only person I know here. And that meant the world to me. And she was just the person that, I'm sure you have someone just similar to that who keeps you sane. And the moments when you're kind of weak, or when I missed my family, of course I did. I had my moments where everybody's family came. I think it was Friday when most of the family members arrived, and then people went to dinner with their family, and I was sitting there and I knew my husband's flight was canceled and he's not going to come. So it was kind of hard in those moments, and she was always there. She was always like, where are you? We're going to pick you up. We're going to do, dinner together or breakfast together and something. And she just did it out of the goodness of her heart. And you meet those people at Mrs. World. You do. And you find that connection. And yeah, it was just magical with her.
Yeah. I think this even gives me the point that I was going to say. You do get a true friendship. You do get a good system of support, a sisterhood. It is like, some people might not believe it. They might not think, oh no, you're just going to a pageant, everybody's going there to compete and that's it. Like they don't care about you. But it is different. You do meet people that really values you. And I mean, I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Like, she was there, and I'm so happy that you got her with you towards your celebration. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And I will never forget those moments. And what you just said is, I don't think it's possible to really understand it beforehand, because you think about a bunch of women who are going to a beauty pageant, okay? And then people tell you about these deep connections and these conversations and the relationships that form, and you're like, this is like, are these all women? Really, is that real? But it happens. And I mean, Mrs. World, they create this atmosphere for it to happen. They pick the right women and the right stage and the right momentum, and they have us, at Elvis Suite and the Diana exhibition. So they do all that, but the rest is up to us. And this class was just, I would have never expected to have this much fun, that kind of deep conversation with people. And I remember conversations with you that were like, I was like, wow, this is, something that normally happens a lot later in a relationship. And yeah, just the feelings that were shared, the stories that were shared, the backgrounds, how you got there, it was very special.
No, and believe me, I think we all treasure those memories. We all are going to remember this experience forever. And we thank Mrs. World for this, because this couldn't have happened without all the people, the logistics. I mean, they took care of us like queens, like all of us. They treated all of us like queens. So I think they did an amazing job, and we're always going to remember that. And now, before we leave, I want you to give us some advice for the future ladies coming up. I want to give us some words of wisdom. I get to know my journey through this year that you are being the queen.
Well, I don't think I'm in a position to really give advice. I've done this for 2 weeks now, but what I can tell you is, if you feel like you're a married woman out there and you feel like there's something you want to give back, and you have a mission in your heart, you might not know it now, you might not have the perfect platform or the perfect catwalk or whatever, but if you feel there is something inside of you that you want to share with the world and just do something remarkable for yourself, but also, and most importantly, for others. Consider Mrs. World as an invitation, an open invitation to a beautiful stage, but most importantly to a sisterhood that's always going to be around you and support you. And if you're looking for that, and if that feels kind of interesting or comfortable, do your research, think about it. Is this the right thing for me to do? And then make a decision, and then just go for it. Don't think too much, because I think, if you put too much thought and doubt in it, you could talk yourself out of it again. But just don't think, just, make your decision and then go for it and do the best you can. And you are going to be happy. Once you get to do the best you can, you're going to be happy with your achievement, and you're going to have a whole lot of power from these women that you get to meet out there. And that's definitely going to happen there.
Yes, and that's an amazing way to say it, what we all want through this experience. So, Julia, thank you so much for being here with me. I am hoping to see you again, even in this way. I hope we get to see each other in person. And I am very, very happy for you. I wish you all the best and all my love from here. I'm in Orlando, Florida, but you are welcome here, my country as well, Ecuador. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I would love to come see you, and I give you a virtual hug from here. And thank you so much for this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See you guys. Thank you so much.